Being a parent is a challenging task for any of us, and it can get a lot tougher when you have blended families or special needs children. Joining us to discuss the support that is available to parents and caregivers is Penny Pittman. She's a family support worker with family and community support. She joins us from Warner, Alberta. Welcome, Penny.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, Penny, I believe that you are overseeing something called Caregiver Cafe Groups. That's in the Warner, Milk River, and Coots areas. It's a cute little name. So, can you maybe give us a little snapshot of who these groups are for and what's it all about?
Sure. So, we took the parent cafe and sort of renamed it to a caregiver cafe. And these are groups that include anyone who cares for children in any capacity. So grandparents, guardians, foster families, step families, yeah, biological parents. And it's just a space, a safe space for them to get together and talk about, sort of the joys and the challenges of caring for children and teens too. So it's basically from 0 to 18 years of age.
Yeah, okay. So that's awesome. Now, are these groups meeting in person or online or a little bit of both? I know COVID probably had affected it a little bit.
Yeah. So we unfortunately had just launched our first series just before the shutdowns in March. So we moved it to an online platform, and all of my groups so far have been on Zoom, and which has its challenges, but it also offers some benefits. So parents don't have to leave the house or find childcare.
Yeah,
So
I actually could see a
yeah,
strong benefit for
um,
it being done over Zoom. You might actually even get a few more people. So that's awesome. So the idea behind this is to help build and maintain strong and healthy families, right? So how would you define that? What kind of traits does a healthy and strong family usually exhibit?
resilience is probably one of the main ones. Um, Good connection, good relationships within the family, communication, and really importantly, understanding and accessing support when they need it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. Now, I understand that the concept of this caregiver cafe is based around five protective factors, right? So the first one being parental resilience. Can you maybe explain what this means? Does it just have something to do with overcoming the tendency to get overwhelmed and just kind of give up?
Yeah. So resiliency is kind of like bouncing back. So I think about like a ball. And in addition to the bouncing back factor, it's the ability to be able to take some kind of lesson or learning and growth from that stressful experience. So it's a combination of those two things that build resilience.
Right. And I can see how being a group setting could actually really help. You can hear other struggles and see how they've been able to overcome it too. So it sounds really interesting. So I understand the second productive factor is relationships and social connections. So can you maybe unpack that for us? What does that look like?
So that's about, building healthy relationships. So understanding what that actually means, understanding what might not be a healthy relationship, um, and also then teaching that to your children and the people that you're caring for. What does that look like? Modeling, boundaries and what to do when you might be in a situation that isn't healthy for you. And yeah, because it's not everyone even understands what a healthy relationship looks like. And being able to bring that out in a safe place and talk about, what you deserve as a human being and understanding that you have worth and value and um, having people around you that can help you remember that.
Yeah, definitely. And I understand there's a third protective factor, which is knowledge of parenting and child development. So, what kinds of parental knowledge do you try to share with the groups?
Okay. So we talk about lots about ages and stages. Um, positive parenting strategies for times when, behavior might not be what you want it to be, how you can deal with that. Lots of stuff about um, brain development and, um, yeah, really understanding the capacity of your child at any given time.
That's interesting. So, what about child development? Is this about brain development, like you said, or is it more like emotional development, or is it a little bit of combination?
So it's sort of everything. So knowing sort of what's typical. So we use a questionnaire called the Ages and Stages questionnaire if we think it's needed to see how children, what's typical for development and what can they or can't they do. So that can encompass like motor skills, speech, social emotional intelligence, things like that. And then we talk about, the developing brain, because when a parent can understand that the child just isn't actually capable of doing something, their brain just has not developed enough, it helps that parent step back and be a little more compassionate and sort of rely on the more positive parenting practices. Yeah.
Now, it sounds like this is for caregivers of quite young children. Am I gathering that right, or is this for any age group? And do you put them in different categories in terms of if you're a caregiver of a teen versus a 3-year-old? How does that work exactly?
Well, the interesting thing is that teens go through a brain development period that's very similar to, um, the 0 to 3, the toddlerhood, right? So you've probably heard the term three-nager, right? And that's kind of
Well,
that
it makes
idea of
sense, doesn't it?
the concept is their brains are rapidly changing. So in the adolescent period, it's not as rapid, but they're going through all kinds of things. So typically we would split them up. There is a set of cards in a box for teens, parents of teens or caregivers of teens. However, when you start talking with parents, a lot of what they're talking about, those core principles, apply, I think, to humankind, but for sure, all the way through. Yeah.
So at what age group does it cut off? We're talking teens, or can we even be talking about like young adult children as well, like into their, I guess, late teens, early 20s?
Yeah. Our mandate is 0 to 18. So we typically serve families in that age range. And um, we have been breaking the cafes up into, so, 0 to, 10 and then 12 to 18. Um, so that's typically what we're doing right now. Yeah, just because as far as practical strategies go, those are going to look different
Right,
based
definitely.
on the age of your child,
And
obviously. Yeah.
and how many parents or caregivers are in each group roughly?
Well, um, up to 10 in person, because in an hour you really want to give everybody an opportunity to either break into smaller groups or to come together as a group and really let everyone have a chance to talk. Online, I've kind of found that 5 is a good number to allow that same sort of openness and
Yeah, a little bit
just
more
letting things
manageable.
come forth, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
plus, if it's a smaller group, some parents or caregivers might be more apt to want to share than if it's a much larger group. And oftentimes, there's certain people that are more dominant with talking, and others tend to keep back a little bit more. So, yes, definitely. So, as parents and caregivers, that we need to become more aware of where the child is at, obviously, and to adjust our parenting styles accordingly. So, what does that look like? It's easier said than done, for sure.
right. So here's a quick example. Just when you're wanting a child who's under 3 to take turns with a toy or share, or the part of their brain, the frontal part of their brain, which doesn't fully develop until, they're like 25 years old, doesn't have the capacity really to monitor their impulse control and their emotions properly. So if you're expecting that to happen on a regular basis without any big feelings about it, then that to me would not be a realistic expectation. So that would be a place you could support a parent in. Okay, well, if this is what they're capable of, what would that look like for you? How could you have an expectation that was realistic? Um, and not that we aren't encouraging them and modeling and showing them, because that's what's growing those skills. We're just not expecting that they're going to willingly and happily share.
Yeah. Now, when you observe those families that have that opportunity to meet together with others going through those same things that they're going through, compared to people who don't, how much difference does that make in parenting or just going through life, really?
Yeah, so uh, I can just speak to what I see and what I hear. And what I hear is parenting, especially small children, can be isolating. And with the world and the health situation has it's been even more so. And that having a space to talk about things where you aren't worried about being judged um, is it just helps draw out those things that they're already doing well. Because my job as a facilitator is to listen and help them see where they're already strong so that we can draw on those strengths to just keep increasing their confidence, because more confident parent parent better. I mean, we all do better when we feel better, right? So that's what I notice. I notice an increase in confidence and sort of a little bit more compassion to themselves and more understanding of their children.
Wow, that's amazing. And what kind of feedback are you getting from parents and caregivers about this program?
So we're getting a lot of feedback about feeling connected, um, feeling supported, uh, knowing where resources are, where they can be connected to those resources, not feeling judged, um, and meeting people. And this is one of the other really kind of fun things about Zoom is I recently had some parents, two moms connect from sort of the south end of the province and then up by, Colehurst area. And um, they've maintained that relationship. So it doesn't even have to be in your own community. Um, so they've built a bond that never probably would have happened because we were able to be online. So things like that. And yeah,
I was going to ask you actually, being that you can do these online, can it reach people beyond the Warner, Coots, Milk River area? Have you opened it up, or are you kind of sticking strictly to those geographical areas?
no. So during the pandemic, FCSS has really tried to maintain a presence, and online was our only opportunity. So what's been happening is, like I said, we're getting participants. So every support worker in all of our municipalities might not be running the caregiver cafe, but maybe I'm running one, and participants from those other municipalities can join. Um, so
That's good. I'm glad that
yeah,
you
it is.
mentioned that. Yeah, absolutely. And I understand too that FCSS also has caregiver cafe groups specifically designed for Indigenous families. So maybe explain a little bit, just really quickly, what is different with these groups? Is it more the cultural background that's included?
Well, so Jessica Goodrider Lowen is our family support worker and Indigenous liaison worker in Tabor. And her idea is to bring Indigenous families together to create that support network so that they're aware that there are other families with their same cultural background in Tabor, and also to, show up in a way that feels authentic for them. And, we're all trained, to be culturally sensitive in our programming. However, some of our staff have knowledge that can really benefit those Indigenous cultures.
That's awesome. So how would any interested parents or caregivers get signed up for this program? What do they have to do?
So go to the website, um, All of the information is listed there, the different areas, the different times, and all of the registration information is there. You can either go and look at the program, or you can just look for the family support worker in your municipality, and they will be able to get you hooked up with any programming that's running, even if it's not. So someone in Raymond could call the Raymond FCSS and they could direct them to me.
Great. And that's fcss.ca is the website for family and community support services. Thanks so much for your time today, Penny. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I hope to see more families.
Absolutely. Penny Pittman is a family support worker with the Family and Community Support Services. You can look them up at fcss.ca. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.